Let me tell you something that most people never learn until it's too late. Sometimes the most powerful move you'll ever make is no move at all. There's a force in this world more powerful than noise, more piercing than words, and more unforgettable than confrontation. It's silence. Not the awkward kind, not the passive-aggressive kind, but real, intentional silence. The kind that holds power, the kind that speaks for you when you have nothing left to say, the kind that makes people sit in the echo of your absence and feel the weight of what they lost, even if they can't admit it. See, silence is not about shutting down. It's not about retreating out of fear or pain. Silence is strategy. It's choosing to stop feeding energy into places where it's not honored. It's pulling your voice out of spaces where it was being wasted. When you choose silence, real silence, you're no longer explaining, proving, or performing. You are done negotiating your worth. That kind of silence, it creates discomfort. It leaves room for reflection. People don't realize how loud your presence was until it's gone. Your calls, your support, your laughter, your light, all of it. When you stop giving that so freely, they start to notice the emptiness. Because people get used to what's consistent, and too often they confuse consistency with permanence. But when silence falls in place of your presence, that illusion breaks. It forces them to consider, did I take them for granted? But silence isn't just about them. It's also about you. It's the space where healing begins. Because while you're quiet to the world, you get loud with yourself. You hear your own thoughts more clearly. You feel your own needs. You start reconnecting with who you are when you're not performing for approval, filling in the gaps others created. Silence becomes the soil where self-respect grows. You stop waiting on an apology that may never come. You stop chasing closure from someone who never cared enough to give it. You give it to yourself. And here's the truth. People listen when you're quiet in a way they never did when you were shouting. You go silent. They're forced to replay every word you ever said. They remember what you did, what you gave, and that memory grows louder in your absence. You don't have to explain why you stopped texting, why you stopped showing up, why you walked away. Your silence explains it all. It's not petty. It's not cold. It's clarity. And let me say this. Don't break your silence just because it's uncomfortable. Let them sit with it. Let them feel it. Because if your presence didn't teach them your value, your absence will. Stay quiet long enough for them to realize they've been talking to themselves, that their access was a privilege, not a right. You don't owe anyone closure when all they gave you was confusion. You don't owe them conversation when all they gave you was chaos. Silence teaches more than speeches ever could. It teaches you to hold your ground, to stop over-explaining, to protect your peace. It's not weakness, it's restraint, it's discipline. I say, I don't need to prove anything anymore. I know who I am. So the next time they expect a reaction, give them silence. When they play games, go quiet. When they don't see your worth, fall back. Not to manipulate, but to preserve. Because silence is not absence, it's presence without performance. And in that stillness, you reclaim your power. There's a difference between being seen and being remembered, between noise and impact. In a world where everyone's trying to be noticed, chasing cloud likes and temporary praise, you have to ask yourself, do you want to be popular? Or do you want to be powerful? There's a big difference. Living for attention is shallow, it's fleeting. But living with purpose, that's where the real weight is. That's what makes people feel your absence long after you're gone. When you live for attention, you become a slave to the moment. You say what people want to hear, not what they need to hear. You move based on reaction, not direction. You become loud, but not deep, present, but not impactful. And the worst part, The crowd you work so hard to impress will forget you the moment someone shinier shows up. They're not loyal to you, they're loyal to the feeling you give them. And when that feeling fades, so do you. But when you live with purpose, you move different. You're not seeking validation, you're walking in vision. You're not trying to impress the room, you're trying to change the room. You don't chase attention, you attract respect. People start to recognize that your name carries weight, not because you're always talking, but because you're always building. And that building, that's your legacy. That's what they can't ignore. Purpose isn't glamorous. It doesn't always get applause. While others are posting highlights, you're grinding in silence. While they chase followers, you're chasing Ben. Yeah, it can feel lonely. Purpose will isolate you, not because you're not loved, but because you're not average. You've outgrown small talk. You've outgrown proving yourself. You've outgrown rooms where attention is more important than authenticity. And let's be real, attention can be addictive. It feels good to be seen, to be praised, to be talked about. But the danger is, if you build your identity on that, the moment it stops, you crumble. That's why purpose is different. Purpose doesn't need a crowd. It just needs clarity. You know why you wake up. You know what you're here to do. You're not chasing applause. You're chasing alignment. You're not performing. You're producing. People who live with purpose don't always speak the loudest, but they move with intention. Every step is calculated. Every decision reflects something deeper. They're not perfect, but they're centered. Their peace doesn't come from how many people are watching. It comes from knowing they're walking the right path. And the funny thing is, when you stop trying to be seen, that's when people start to really notice you. Because purpose glows. It doesn't need a spotlight. It is the light. Purpose also gives you power when you feel overlooked. Because instead of asking, why aren't they seeing me? You start asking, am I living the way I was designed to? You stop begging for seats at tables that were never built for you. You start building your own. And when your life is rooted in something bigger than performance, it becomes unshakable. People come and go, trends fade, opinions change, but purpose stands. So live with that kind of fire, the kind that doesn't burn for attention, but for mission. Don't show up to be liked. Show up to leave something behind. Let your actions echo. Let your work speak when you're not in the room. And when they talk about you, let it not be because you were loud, but because you were necessary, because you mattered, because your purpose left a mark they couldn't forget. There's power in what you don't reveal in a time when everything is shared. Every thought, every move, every moment, mystery has become rare. But that's exactly what makes it magnetic. When you keep a little mystery about yourself, you invite curiosity. You make people lean in instead of scroll past. Because the truth is, people don't value what they fully understand. They value what they have to figure out, what they have to earn, what they can't quite put their finger on. Mystery isn't about being distant or playing games. It's not about being fake or withholding out of fear. It's about boundaries. It's about self-respect. It's about understanding that not everyone deserves full access to you, not because you're hiding, but because you're sacred. Your story is valuable. Your energy is rare. And the minute you give everything away too easily, you dilute your worth. You see it all the time. People overshare, overexpose, and overexplain, trying to force connection. But real connection doesn't come from oversharing. It comes from authenticity, from being real without being an open book. When you share everything, people stop asking questions. They think they figured you out. They lose interest. But when you keep a little yourself, you give them space to wonder. And wonder is what builds attraction. It's what makes people want to know more. The people who move the room when they walk in, they're not always the loudest. They're the ones who carry something unseen. A confidence that doesn't need attention. A presence that doesn't have to explain itself. That's mystery. It's the pause before the sentence. It's the quiet strength behind the eyes. It's the way you move with intention without always announcing your next step. People start to feel something different about you even if they can't name it. Keeping a little mystery also protects your peace. Not everyone has pure intentions. Not everyone wants to see you win. When you share less, you give less for people to twist, to judge, or to weaponize. You stay in control of your narrative. You learn to speak when it's necessary, not just when it's convenient. And when you do speak, people listen because you've trained them to value your voice, not take it for granted. Mystery isn't about being cold. It's about being intentional. It's knowing when to be open and when to hold back, when to share your plans and when to let your results do the talking. It's the discipline to let people wonder instead of always giving them the answers. And let's be honest, some people only want answers so they can compare, compete, or control. When you're mysterious, you take that power away. You keep the spotlight where it belongs, on your actions, not their opinions. And it's not just about relationships and social media, it's about how you carry yourself in life. When you're unpredictable, in a focused, purposeful way, you become unforgettable. You show people that you are not easily read, not easily moved, not easily defined. And in a world addicted to instant access and surface level connections, that depth is rare, that mystery becomes a superpower. So don't rush to be understood. Don't try to explain every layer of who you are. Let some things remain unsaid. Let them wonder where you're going next, what's on your mind, how you keep evolving. Because when people can't predict you, they pay attention. And when they can't figure you out, they can't forget you. That's the power of mystery. There's a certain kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. It just walks into the room and everything shifts. That's what happens when you level up quietly. You move in silence, not because you're afraid, but because you're focused. You're not doing it for applause, you're doing it for evolution. And real evolution doesn't scream, it shows. We live in a time where people chase validation before they chase transformation. They post every step of their so-called grind, hoping someone notices. But here's the truth. If you have to constantly talk about your growth, you're not growing for the right reasons, you're performing. And performance might get you attention, but it won't get you peace. Quiet elevation, on the other hand, builds a foundation so strong that nothing can shake it. Not opinions, not setbacks, not envy. When you level up quietly, you protect your progress. You give yourself room to stumble, to learn, to fail without the pressure of spectators. You stop rushing the process to meet someone else's expectations. You move at your own pace, not the internet's. You understand that success isn't about being seen. It's about becoming solid. It's about being able to hold what you're working for, not just showing it off. See, loud moves attract noise, not just the cheering kind, the jealous kind, the questioning kind, the kind that watches just to wait for your downfall. But when you stay low and build slow, you rob them of the script. You keep your next move to yourself and let your growth speak when it's ready. And when it does, it speaks loud without a sound. People start noticing the difference in how you carry yourself, in how you think, in what you tolerate. And they'll say, you've changed. Yes, because that was the point. Leveling up quietly also means you've learned to respect the journey. You're not rushing for the glow up. You're working for the grow up. Not cutting corners just to flex. You're building character, discipline, and resilience. And that kind of growth, it lasts. It's not flashy, but it's real. It doesn't burn fast, it burns deep. And when you finally arrive, you're not just someone who made it, you're someone who earned it. And let's not forget, silence makes impact louder. When you don't say much, people pay more attention to what you do. When you stop broadcasting every goal, every project, every move, you start creating a space where people can only react to results. You come back stronger, wiser, more confident, and they have no idea what hit them. That's not by accident. That's by design. Quiet leveling up is also about humility. You're not trying to prove anything to anybody. You're not in competition. You're not trying to impress people who don't even know who they are. You're working in the shadows because you've learned that light exposes everything, including things that aren't ready. And you'd rather be prepared than praised. So take your time, disappear if you need to, learn in private, heal in silence, build in solitude, not because you owe the world less, but because you owe yourself more. More focus, more patience, more respect. You don't need to convince anyone you're rising. Let your new habits do that. Let your new mindset do that. Let your peace, your glow, your boundaries all speak for you. One day they'll look at you and wonder how you did it, how you transformed, how you went from overlooked to undeniable. And you won't have to say a word because everything about you, your presence, your energy, your success will already be speaking. That's the power of leveling up quietly. There comes a moment in life when staying is more painful than leaving. A moment when holding on costs you your peace, your dignity, and your sense of self. That's when you know it's time to walk away. And walking away doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you gave up. It means you finally chose you. It means you respected yourself enough to stop begging for what should have been freely given. Too often we stay in situations, relationships, and environments that shrink us. We keep showing up, hoping something will change, hoping they'll finally see our worth. But here's the truth. They won't see it until you stop handing it to them so easily. When you continue to give your time, your love, your energy to people who mishandle it, you teach them that you'll settle for less. And the longer you stay, the louder that message gets. Walking away is a declaration. It says, I know what I deserve, and this isn't it. It's one of the purest forms of self-respect because anyone can stay and tolerate dysfunction. That's easy. But to leave, to remove yourself from something that's comfortable but damaging, that takes strength. That takes clarity. That takes love for yourself. People may not understand it. They may call you selfish, dramatic, disloyal. Let them talk, let them create their own story, because the truth is, no one else feels the damage being done to your spirit but you. No one else wakes up in your skin, carries your stress. Here's the quiet breaking in your own thoughts. If you wait for their approval to walk away, you'll stay stuck forever. And walking away isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. No big goodbye, no final fight, just silence. Just space, just distance, and that space gives you room to breathe again, to think clearly, to rebuild what someone else tried to tear down. It gives you time to remember who you were before you started compromising everything just to keep something alive that was already dying. You don't owe everyone forever. Some people are just lessons. Some places are just seasons, and some situations are meant to break you open, not break you down. Respecting yourself enough to walk away means you're not going to settle. Not anymore. You're done explaining. You're done begging. You're done lowering your standards just to keep people around. Because peace isn't found in attachment. It's found in alignment. And the moment you start choosing yourself, you'll see everything around you shift. Real respect starts from within. If you want people to value your presence, you have to show them you're not afraid to remove it. Walking away isn't the end. It's the beginning of getting back to you. And that's the most powerful step you'll ever take. There's a quiet strength in being someone who brings value, then steps back. Someone who shows up, gives their best, energy, insight, love, effort, and then walks away without needing applause, recognition, or reward. That kind of presence is rare because most people give to be seen, to be praised, to be valued. But when you give from a place of wholeness, not hunger, you don't need to linger. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You already know it. Giving value doesn't mean draining yourself. It means offering something real. Wisdom, kindness, skill, presence that makes people better for having crossed paths with you. It's doing your part with integrity, then stepping back and letting things unfold. You don't chase after credit. You don't force appreciation. You simply leave behind the mark of excellence and you let that speak for itself. And here's where the real power lies: in the retreat, in knowing when to step back, when to let silence follow your contribution. Because if you stay too long trying to prove how valuable you are, you start looking desperate. You shift from empowered to needy, from impactful to dependent. And that's not your lane. You were never meant to beg for recognition. You were meant to be the reason things change, then move on. The ones who truly carry weight don't shout about what they've done. They don't stay to monitor reactions. They give value. They uplift. They shift energy, and then they disappear like they were never there. But people remember. They always remember. They remember the calm you brought, the direction you offered, the spark you lit, because real value lingers long after your presence is gone. This approach also protects your peace. You avoid being used. You avoid being expected to constantly perform or produce. By retreating, you reset the balance. You remind people that your presence is a choice, not a given. That your energy isn't on demand. It's a gift you control. So don't overstay. Don't wait around hoping they'll say thank you. Don't try to convince them you mattered. Let your value echo. Let your absence teach what your presence may have been taken for granted. And know this: when you give and then retreat, you train the world to respect not just what you offer, but who you are.